In a beautiful village, there lived a girl named Cinderella, the sooty maid. She lived with her stepmother and 2 stepsisters. They were very cruel and treated Cinderella like a servant, even calling her Cinderella, because she always did the house chores. One day, in the palace, news spread that the prince was searching for a future queen. Invitations were sent to all the girls around the palace to attend a grand party. Cinderella was very excited to hear the news, but unfortunately, her stepmother and stepsisters forbade her from going. They were jealous of Cinderella's beauty and kindness, fearing that the prince might fall in love with her.
Despite being disappointed, Cinderella did not give up. She felt that there was a miracle behind all her difficulties. Cinderella hoped that maybe one day she would have the chance to meet the prince, even if it was just for a brief moment. She continued to work tirelessly on her household chores, hoping that her kindness would bring blessings. The day of the party finally arrived, and the girls at the palace were competing to wear their best dresses. Meanwhile, Cinderella felt sad and anxious, as she was not allowed to go. However, suddenly an old fairy with her magical wand appeared. "Don't worry, Cinderella," said the fairy, "I will help you go to the party." With her magic, the old fairy transformed Cinderella into a beautiful and radiant princess, shimmering in a stunning gown made from the rags of her sooty maid attire. "Remember, at midnight, your enchantment will vanish," the fairy warned. Cinderella was very grateful and promised to heed the warning. Upon arriving at the party, the prince was mesmerized by Cinderella's beauty and asked her to dance. They were immediately captivated by each other and couldn't stop talking and laughing. Cinderella felt like she was living a dream come true. However, in the midst of their happiness, Cinderella suddenly noticed the clock approaching midnight. Without hesitation, she had to leave the party before the fairy's enchantment vanished. With a heavy heart, Cinderella ran away from the palace, leaving behind the glass slipper she was wearing. The prince made every effort to find the mysterious girl and promised to marry her if he succeeded in finding her. He ordered all the women in his kingdom to try on the Cinderella's glass slipper. Finally, they arrived at Cinderella's house. Her stepsisters tried to wear the slipper, but it didn't fit them. Then came Cinderella's turn. When she put on the glass slipper, it fit perfectly. The prince knew that he had found his future queen. He brought Cinderella back to the palace and announced their upcoming wedding. The entire kingdom rejoiced in their happiness, and Cinderella and the prince lived happily ever after. Then came Cinderella's turn. When she put on the glass slipper, it fit perfectly. The prince knew that he had found his future queen. He brought Cinderella back to the palace and announced their upcoming wedding. The entire kingdom rejoiced in their happiness, and Cinderella and the prince lived happily ever after. Then came Cinderella's turn. when she put on the glass slipper. It fit perfectly. The prince knew that he had found his future queen. He brought Cinderella back to the palace and announced their upcoming wedding. The entire kingdom rejoiced in their happiness, and Cinderella and the prince lived happily ever after.